We are educational specialists, so myself and Matt are both ex-teachers. We've been running Indigo for 3 years, but we've been doing online learning for 9 years together now. We don't offer off-the-shelf packages. All the work that we produce is fully customisable to meet the needs of our clients and the intended audience. So as a business, our aim was to make e-learning more affordable through tried and tested processes. So we built over 900 courses in 1 year, which I think was one of our most busiest years, but probably thousands over those 9 years. Okay, so what are the benefits to businesses with e-learning? So online resources are a way of sharing your knowledge or expertise. So many of you are probably already doing this in small quantities through social media, which enhances your reputation, of course. But e-learning can be a way of generating revenue in a number of ways. So some clients share free of charge e-learning through their websites, typically in bite-sized e-learning of around 10 minutes. This is a way of drawing clients in as an opener to something else. So it could be your services that you offer or full training services. You can sell courses through your website, and Matt's going to go through the details and the options of that shortly with you. If you already deliver training, e-learning can be a cost saving for you in the long term. So with no need for face-to-face delivery or a blended learning approach, which is where you do a mix of the both, sessions can be repeated as many times as you like and for as long as you like. Obviously, e-learning means it's accessible across the world. It can be scalable as you grow. It can start with simple functional designs right up to fully immersive experiences. So what's the power of e-learning and how might it help you? So e-learning can maximise employee engagement on an ongoing basis, and most of us need to see information more than once to retain it and fully remember it. So training can obviously be accessed as many times as the learner needs to, and rather than walking away with just a set of notes, they can recap it as often as they need to. It's a flexible solution that can be used on any device type, so you can use it on mobile phones, mobiles, desktops, etc. And there's no need, like traditional training, to have to schedule times and travel, etc. It's a greener delivery option now, reducing environmental impact, which is important to a lot of businesses these days. And it's more current for the current workforce, even more so in our climate with what's going on with COVID at the moment. Updates can be made easily as legislation or training objectives change. And you can enhance existing material that you already have. So you might already have the information that you want to share with clients. It's just a process of adapting it to make it suitable for online delivery. It can give you a competitive edge by offering more flexible ways of learning and different methods by giving your clients more choice. Okay, so we're limited with what we can share with you today because our clients always own the IPR to any of our projects. So we only sell the e-learning as a one-off cost, unlike other providers, so that clients get to keep it and use it as many times as they like. There's a small sample you can see on the screen at the moment, which are just screenshots of past projects. To get to this stage, we typically work with a PowerPoint or a Word document for most of our clients. So they send us a PowerPoint. We go through a review process with them to make sure that it's got everything that it would need, make sure the learning objectives are okay. We split it down into bite-sized sections, so it's easy for the audience to absorb it. And we can go through formal and informal accreditations as well. The most important thing with e-learning is the intended audience. So we would want to know things like their level of language, jargons or acronyms that are commonly used in the business to make sure that everybody can fully understand what's being offered, and making sure that it's not too overwhelming with text. A lot of people, if they see lots of text, they switch off straight away or they skim read it. So it's making sure that the learning content is appropriate for the audience and the subject matter, of course. So we work with clients across all different types of budgets. If it's a starting project, there's nothing wrong with doing a talking head video creating on someone's mobile phone, right up to fully customised videography. And sometimes we'll work with customised photography, or sometimes it's just a range of stock images. So we'll create it based on the client's budgets and needs, and again, the intended audience. There's a range of assessment activities, and there's different ways you can handle assessment in e-learning. It's not just necessarily testing somebody's knowledge. You can use it for knowledge checks, which means it's just a way of seeing how someone's getting on with the course, right through to fully assessed quizzes with pass rates where you can create certificates at the end of it if people need the evidence of what they've achieved. Sometimes we'll put questions in which are just to spell out a key fact. So for example, if it was a health and safety course, you might put a frightening statistic in of how many people have been injured in the workplace for people to guess, but it's just a way of reiterating key points and why that particular piece of learning is important. So there's lots of choices with assessments and how we build and create them for the users as well. There's an awful lot of ways people can use it in business, and there's just a few on the screen for you to review at the moment. But just to go through a few of our clients that we're working with, we work from small one-man bands right up to large companies. So at the moment we're working with the Food Standards Agency. That course has got to go out to 48,000 users in 1 year, where we've got other clients where it might only be shared with 3 or 4 people a week. So we work with both ends of the scale. Examples of knowledge sharing and how people have used it. So we've worked with quite a few HR companies. That's been with onboarding processes. That works particularly well for companies who've either got high staff turnover or perhaps are experiencing rapid growth with the onboarding. It could be that they need help with things like PDR or appraisal processes, where the e-learning would take their senior management team through all the steps involved, and there might be separate courses to help staff prepare properly for those sessions. As well as learning resources, we do informational services. So a lot of companies or people may not want to necessarily speak to a salesperson. So it might be that your services could be done as a branched learning activity, so your clients can interact and explore the different services you offer that way, rather than picking up the phone and speaking to you, just as a way of drawing them in from a marketing point of view. So that's worked well with some of our clients. And I think obviously there's no geographical limits to the audience or the number of usages, which really supports some businesses, and it can be repeated in a flexible way and it's easy to adapt. I'm now going to hand over to Matt, who's going to talk about what to do once you've got your e-learning resource, and where you might put it, what the options are. So how can you now make it sellable?
Thank you, Tracey. Yes, so Tracey's talked about the e-learning and creating actual resources from your content, whether that's your expertise, your knowledge, training that you've already got, etc. But how do you get it out there and control who can look at it? There are already systems out there that you'll have heard of. Udemy, for example, is a global system where you can put content on there, have various rules about it. It has to have audio. So people put a lot of videos on there. However, they do take 50% of any money that you make from selling the courses. And you lose control over some of the pricing based on the fact that they like cutting the prices to sell it cheap, so they can sell in quantity. Another one you might have heard of is something called Thinkific, which is a similar type of thing to Udemy, except you have to do your own marketing. However, they give you much more control over it. They have systems where you can set up a nice website on their system. You can control payment systems for it, so people can pay in installments or subscription basis, etc. However, you get the first 3 courses for free, and after that you have to pay a monthly subscription to sell your knowledge. The final one is the one that we use, is Moodle, and it's not a system as such. It's a learning management system. So basically, it has everything that Thinkific has. So there's no marketing; you'd have to do your own marketing. But you have total control over it, so you can brand it to look like your website, your colours, etc. And we'll talk more about Moodle in a minute, but it means you have total control over it, and that's the one that we use. So on the next page, thanks, Trace. So yeah, so virtual learning environment, course management system, learning management system, they're all the same thing. And this is a Moodle type thing that we've already mentioned. There are others out there. We prefer Moodle. It's actually relatively cheap because it's open source. It also means we can do anything with it that we want to, whereas if you buy into something with more money, you may well be restricted because it's not open source. From the HR point of view, it's brilliant. Everybody gets their own account that only they can access unless you're an administrator, which means they have their own private area. You can set it up so they can put info about themselves on there, a bit like Facebook, picture, etc. That obviously monitors then. It allows us to monitor everything going on with that person, when they log in, when they log out, what they do in the meantime. It means that anything they do can be checked. What it means then is when your training programs are on there, we can track when they take quizzes, when they get certificates, anything that you would want tracked, basically. All these training programs can be put into individual courses. You can put any type of file on there, not just the resources that we produce, Word documents, PowerPoints, PDFs, videos, etc. You can put anything on there. And the big thing is, I suppose, that you can charge for people to access this, because you control access. You can say who sees what, when, and therefore that's your control and your ability to charge people for accessing your knowledge and your expertise. Cue Tracey. So we've got I think 2 or 3 case studies. One of them is at ISO QSL, which is a Worcester-based company. Some of you may have come across it. They do ISO training. They do an ISO Lite version, which is their online version, which consists of 12 different sessions, not so that you can gain ISO qualifications, but so you can be prepared for it, or you can be reminded of what your employees may need to know for it. They charge for these courses. They charge, I think, about £50, and then they've got special deals that if you buy a set, that you get a discount, etc. They use a system that theirs is going to. They advertise it on their website, and it's going to be connected to Moodle in the next couple of months, so that basically you'll sign up, you'll be given your account, and that's it. It'll be all automated. However, they still like to talk to you because they like to make sure you're on the right course, etc. So they use it as well as a way of getting information, marketing information from potential clients who might then want to buy more of their courses, specifically their face-to-face training. it's worked well for them, and they are looking at expanding it yet again, especially in the sort of last few months when, of course, face-to-face training has died the death, as it were. The next case study isn't a specific case study. It's basically talking about large organisations. So we've done stuff for the NHS. We're currently doing something for the Food Standards Agency. These are informational learning. So they're not specific courses. This is trying to get information out to people who need to know things. The NHS one was about medical waste and was for internal employees. The Food Standards Agency is for local authorities, people who own restaurants, hospitality, catering environments, etc., all about allergens. So that you can imagine the number of people that may be looking at these. For the FSA, they reckon 48,000 in the first year will look at this this new training that they're going to put out there. They've decided to use quizzes. The FSA give a little certificate at the end to say you've done it. This is all given away free. For them, the FSA give it away free as part of a government initiative. The NHS, it's internal CPD. But you can see it can be used on huge, don't panic, Trace. It can be used on huge organisations. Final one is quite the opposite. It's a small sort of one-man band situation, a first aid trainer who basically could do 2 courses a week. Each course lasted 2 days, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No one wants to learn anything on a Friday, not even Craig David. So therefore, he could only do 2 courses a week. His course was basically 1 day of learning and 1 day of practical. By putting the learning online and giving people access to it a month before the practical session, it means he didn't have to do the learning day. It meant now he can do up to 5 courses a week because he's only got to do the practical side of things, and he can check the learnings taking place within the practical session by asking questions of his trainees, as it were. This is a good example of blended learning, where some of the learning is face-to-face and some of it is online. Q, Tracy. So yeah, in conclusion to what we both said, really, we've all gone through some difficult times in the past 6 months, and that isn't going to change, if I'm honest. I don't think it will change until either there's a vaccine or we've all had COVID. So therefore, people are going to need to change what they do. And we need to seize these opportunities when they come along. For a lot of you, one of your most valuable assets will be your knowledge, your expertise, whether that's practical knowledge on how to do something, whether that's informational knowledge in terms of building up people's self-esteem or businesses, etc., whether that's legislative knowledge in terms of health and safety, equal ops, that sort of thing, or whether it's just informative knowledge about trying to tell people something even though you're not planning to actually make a profit from that directly. So it might be telling somebody about your service, and in terms of things like charities. Online learning is basically a way of monetizing this knowledge. It's a way of getting your expertise, your knowledge, putting it down on virtual paper, and then distributing it to the world. Don't forget, once it's online, you have a marketplace of 7 billion people. And these courses can be sold as a one-off, or in the case of legislative stuff, often it's subscription based, where people will have to pay maybe annually because their employees may need refreshers on health and safety or equal opportunities courses. Either way, it is a new income stream for businesses.